Young Nicolas Cage and Crispen walk us through the hardships of growing up in this 80s teen variety show filled with laughs, show-stopping tunes, and existential crises. We watched the best of times as we continue our look at pilots of failed TV shows today on Nothing Movies.
Welcome back, however you wish to self-identify, to Nothing Movies, where we ask the question, the is this? It's the podcast where we go through an actor's filmography and choose the most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies that they've made, and decide whether it's a whole lot of nothing, or if it is, indeed, the best of times.
Oh!
I'm Kaz Lesgard.
I'm Jameson Rafter.
And we're continuing our discussion today on TV pilots turned TV movies with 1981's The Best of Times. But I'm burying the lead because what we're really here to do today is to discuss the life and career of Nicolas goddamn Cage.
Every movie podcast has a rite of passage where eventually they are going to have to talk about Nicolas Cage, and the time is now for us.
Absolutely. He's one of the biggest actors out there. He's one of the most universally beloved across all sorts of demographics.
Whether you love him or hate him, he's beloved.
He has a fascinating career.
He's a fascinating man.
He's absolutely. Look, I'm going to show you. This is the first 2 pages of my notes about Nicolas Cage that I wrote researching this episode. None of this covers his film career. This is just the man. Yeah. So we're going to have a nice long conversation about Mr. Cage, the films that he's done, the things that he's done in his life, and we're allowing ourselves to have a longer than usual discussion about Nicolas Cage because the movie we're discussing today is 41 minutes. So right. We have time to fill.
I was really I was really hoping that it would have been like a tag team situation where there would have been like commercial breaks.
Yeah, thanks to whoever edited this and put it on YouTube for editing those out. Because you get like snippets of like the beginning of a commercial at one point. I'm all like, oh, what's that for? Oh, is that like a McRib? Yeah. Come on!
There's one part in the Simpsons where like, don't go away, the best of times will be right back, and then it immediately cuts to the next
it's one of those things where it's all like, the best of times will be right back. The best of times, it's
right.
Just like...
We'll return right now!
It's half a syllable, yeah. There is one advertisement that sneaks its way into the best of times, but it does so by being part of the movie. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but first... Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Let's just put it on the table. Jameson, you're pretty good at impressions. Do you have a cage in your back pocket? That's annoying.
Just a yell. Just a yell.
Your go-to Cage is just a guttural sound.
You're goddamn right. It's just a yell. I fucking love Nicolas Cage.
He's the best. I feel like you have to kind of purse your lips a little bit, and you have to sort of talk through the front of your mouth. Man, all right, this is how you have to do it.
That's pretty good yourself, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's an easy target.
He really is. And, every time there's like a new Nicolas Cage movie that comes out, the first thing my buddies and I do is like, all right, we got to share the trailer. We got to like put that in the back of our minds to maybe potentially watch someday because, goddamn, what a tour de force that man is. There was quite a time where we would set aside, okay, well, let's have Nicolas Cage movie night. Whether it was good or bad, he never phoned it in. He always brings exactly what you hope for a character like that. And I'll say that I don't think he's a bad actor.
I think not at all.
I think certain roles he's tailored better for, and I think certain directors can use his unique freak out style better than most. And I'll just say, I think for the longest time, he had this reputation of having, in my mind, the perfect ratio of good movies to bad movies. And it was only until one point where I think society as a whole started to notice, wait, Nicolas Cage kind of overacts and kind of goes big a lot of the time. And I think it was around the time that he did either the Wicker Man remake or the first Ghost Rider movie where people were like, wait a second, Nick Cage is kind of insane.
Well, look, we will talk about his career in full. The one thing I realized while writing down the man's filmography is that there are real ebbs and flows to this career, but the one observation that I made is that he's always been out of his mind. He's never he never like eventually like found like his joie de vivre and became like the most extra actor in the industry. Now, he's been at 11 since the very beginning, because if we haven't mentioned it, The Best of Times is Nicolas Cage's first credited acting role. This is where it begins. This is the Rosetta Stone for all the Cage to come. And I think he's like barely out of his teens when he does this. He's extremely young, and he came fully formed. Like, this is like the Nicolas Cage you've seen in multiple roles here,
but a younger, thinner version of himself.
I think the reason why the public perception shifted on Nicolas Cage to this guy is terrible, he overacts and everything.
This like living meme. Yeah.
It's because the films that he was making when the internet and social media really started to blow up in like the early 2000s, that's kind of when his career started going more towards The Wicker Men and The Ghost Writers and whatnot. Yeah. And, there is that ultra famous YouTube compilation Nicolas Cage losing his shit. On Wicker Man, every time he completely goes buck wild, it's a lot of Deadfall, it's a lot of Vampire's Kiss, and it's also like the brief moments from like his serious good movies where he completely loses his mind. Like one of my favorites that I was reminded of while writing this down is the Ridley Scott film Matchstick Men, which is this charming little crime caper. But he does have that one moment where he's in the pharmacy. He says, "You ever been beaten so hard you piss blood?" And it's great. Taken out of context of the movie, you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
But it's just the way he delivers his lines. But no, he's always been a fantastic actor. He won an Oscar fairly early in his career, and I wonder if I initially have some pushback on the sentence, Nicolas Cage never phones it in, because he has been in just a wealth of straight-to-DVD and streaming garbage with like adjective titles like Vengeance and Primal and stuff like that. Now, certainly I haven't watched all of those. I'd wager there's at least one or two films where Nicolas Cage just came to set and so was like, you're getting the bare minimum.
You're getting what I do. Yeah.
You're getting the bird cage, not the tiger cage. Is what you're getting.
Okay.
That's how he refers to himself. But let's just jump right into it, because there's so much to talk about. So, Nicolas Kim Coppola, born January 7th, 1964 in Long Beach, California. And let me tell you, watching The Best of Times, that is readily apparent.
Oh yeah, he is right at home.
This is a Long Beach surfer dude, if I've ever seen one.
He helped out with scouting locations, probably.
He was born to Joy Vogelsang, a dancer and choreographer, and August Coppola, a professor of literature. His uncle is legendary filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola. His aunt is Oscar-nominated actress and star of Rocky, Talia Shire. His cousins...
You gave me a look like,
This is all impressive.
Oh,
Adrian!
Oh, she was Adrian?
His aunt is Adrian.
Okay.
That's cool.
All right.
His cousins are director Sofia Coppola, actor Jason Schwartzman, as well as several other lesser-known Coppolas. No shade. There's a lot of Coppolas out there.
They're like the Kennedys.
Yeah, not all Coppolas are born equal. Sorry, Roman. He has two older brothers, director Christopher Coppola and New York radio personality Mark the Cope Coppola.
Oh, the Cope.
Reading that, I realized I meant to look up if there was
he was like a radio morning DJ with the soundboard.
If there was like anything to go on there, and like how much he maybe also kind of sounds a little bit like Nicolas Cage. I don't know. He's been married 5 times, including to fellow actor Patricia Arquette and the late singer-songwriter Lisa Marie Presley. His current wife is 32 years younger than he is.
Oh, lovely.
And I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be brave, Jameson. I'm going to say what needs to be said about this right now. Nice.
Good for him.
Good for him.
If he found love for the 5th time.
Whatever. She's 28. She's an adult.
Okay. All right.
She's almost 30. It's like, that's old enough to decide whether or not you want to be married to Nicolas Cage, in my opinion.
You've made peace with that.
She can make her own choices in life. Whatever. He has 3 kids and 2 grandkids. His first son, Weston, has been involved in 2 black metal bands. That's pretty sick.
Nice.
His second son, of course, is named Kal-El, after Superman.
Which makes makes me think Nicolas Cage is building a rocket to send him off planet, and in the case the planet's destroyed.
Would not be remotely surprised. Superman, a role that he has played twice. Let's say like 1.5 times maybe, because one of those Superman portrayals is questionable. We'll get to it.
Okay.
And his daughter, August, named after his dad, was born in 2022, so he's a recent daddy again. Yeah. Cage, of course, has had well-publicized issues with taxes, largely due to his business manager, Samuel J. Levin, who countersued Cage in 2007, listing Cage's exorbitant spending habits, which include, but were not limited to, a Gulfstream jet, a flotilla of yachts, a squadron of Rolls-Royces, millions of dollars in jewelry and art, and infamously, a dinosaur skull that Cage later learned was stolen and had to surrender to the Mongolian authorities.
Oh, man. Fascinating.
Cage also at one time owned the La Laurie House, the most haunted house in America, located in the French Quarter of Louisiana, which was previously owned by Dean Martin and Tom Jones.
Excellent.
Just like the most I just loved reading this Wikipedia page so much. I had such a great time.
And it's like, every time someone says like, oh, he's such an overactor, and I'm just like, well, this is how a man like him would react in these scenarios that he finds him in, you know?
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't he play a guy who can see 10 seconds into the future? This is how he would react at all times.
Yeah, except he couldn't see that his business manager was fucking him over. which is why he's in so many movies that don't exist, because the man needs money.
He needs to pay off the flotilla of yachts.
Money. Also, I learned the word flotilla today, so that's fun. That's in the brain.
Yeah, and you use it in a sentence, too.
Exactly.
A flotilla of yachts.
Well, I read a sentence that I read off of Wikipedia. Speaking of Louisiana, he's also purchased a pyramid-shaped tomb in a New Orleans cemetery.
Yes.
For the inevitable day where he shuffles off this mortal coil.
See, this is the sort of thing insane billionaires should be doing.
Yeah.
Quit buying social media platforms. I want to see people buy exorbitant, ridiculous things like pyramid tombs.
His pyramid tomb has the Latin phrase omnia ab uno on the outside of it, which translates to everything from one. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Now we can...
That's the most pretentious thing about this guy so far. Everything else I'm loving.
I can imagine being all like, yeah, the pyramid came with the phrase on it. I still haven't looked it up yet.
All from one!
All right. At age 15, he tried to convince his uncle to give him a screen test. This is a great...
You're already
This is a
giggling.
great little conversation.
Yeah,
I wrote this down because I loved how this was worded on Wikipedia. He said to his uncle, "I'll show you acting." His outburst was met with, "Silence in the car!" I just love the idea of Francis Ford Coppola being like, "I will turn this car around, Nicholas."
Yeah. Well, I mean, he worked with Pacino, so he should be used to that level of intensity.
Coppola did, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I was breezing through my head. I don't think Nicolas Cage and Al Pacino have ever been in a movie together. That seems like an oversight. Yet? Well, we'll get to that, actually.
Yeah, we're going to pitch him our idea.
So his acting debut is the movie we're talking about today, The Best of Times, a failed television pilot that was, well, I mean, we'll get into it. That was also the acting debut of one Crispen Glover, who we've talked about on this podcast before, and we'll talk about when we talk about The Shoe. This was followed by a small role in the seminal teen comedy Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yep.
He auditioned for the role that ultimately went to Judge Reinhold, and he ended up with the smaller, dialogue-less role of his buddy. This is also only one of 2 credits, the other being The Best of Times, where he is credited as Nicolas Coppola. Apparently, the legend goes that on the set of Fast Times, people kept coming up to him and like doing like bad Brando impressions.
Oh, really?
So he's all like, I need to change this so people don't think don't accuse me of nepotism. While I'm just starting out, that people.
Well, I originally thought he did change his names to avoid accusations of nepotism, but it sounds to me like he just did that to get away from people doing Brando impressions at him.
Now, the knowledge that everyone knows that Nicolas Cage is a tremendous fan of comic book superheroes, where do you suppose he got the name Cage from?
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage, Power Man!
Yeah, I knew that.
Sweet Christmas! I just thought that was cool. Nicolas Cage's first lead role was in the 1983 film Valley Girl, where he plays a punk who falls in love with Deborah Foreman's titular Valley Girl, sort of a Romeo and Juliet type film.
Yeah, mismatched lovers.
1984's Racing with the Moon stars Cage and Sean Penn as two young men who are about to join the Marines and have to say goodbye to their girlfriends.
Reuniting from Fast Times.
You're right.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
I wanted to get that in there before you did.
Well, because the other thing I was going to say, I completely forgot that Sean Penn is the star of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Because, to be fair, it's the most un-Sean Penn-like role.
True, yeah.
You never associate him with, like, the stoner dude anymore, because he's such a sourpuss, you know? It's all like, oh, right, he was like a hot teen actor at one point in time. The reunion I was going to bring up is this is the second film he works with Crispen Glover. He's also in this film.
Okay.
But also in 1984, he's in the film Birdie, where he and Matthew Modine play Vietnam vets, and Modine becomes mentally unstable and obsessed with becoming a bird. And he builds big fake wings. And Cage is his supportive buddy, like, you can do it, man, just keep flapping. I'm basing that on a trailer that I watched.
Not that old-timey black and white footage of, like, the first flying machines, and it's the guy with, like, the wingsuit, and he just falls off a rock.
I have not seen the film. I would guarantee at one point in time, Matthew Modine sees that and goes, that could work. I mean, his problem is he didn't believe hard enough. I got heart. I'm Birdie. He also does 3 films for his uncle Francis, with small roles in Rumblefish and The Cotton Club, and as the male lead in 1986's Peggy Sue Got Married. You ever seen that one?
I have not. I have seen a lot of Nicolas Cage movies, and I was gonna maybe interject with seen it, haven't seen it, seen it, haven't seen it.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Tell me about this one.
Peggy Sue Got Married is a really fun movie. It's Kathleen Turner's only Oscar nomination. Sort of like a magical fantasy film where she's married to Nicolas Cage, but the love is gone. He's kind of a loser. And through magical shenanigans, she ends up transported back to her high school body with all of her memories, and she gets to do it all over again and figure out why she fell in love with him in the first place. Jim Carrey has a small supporting role in that film. So I saw that as a kid because, much like you with Nicolas Cage, there was a point in time where I'm all like, I must watch everything Jim Carrey is in. It's just kind of fun to see a movie that old with those two guys being like high school buddies, being all like, hey, being like goofy or whatever, knowing the careers that they would have.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I recommend that one.
Yeah, the titans of the 90s, those two.
Absolutely. 1986, he is in the Canadian-produced drama The Boy in Blue, in which he plays Ned Hanlon, a famous Canadian sculler, which is a type of rowing, I have been led to believe. I'm just going to show you the poster for The Boy in Blue and get, like, your immediate reaction to it. This is what went out to theaters.
Okay.
It's just a big...
Looks like a workout tape.
It does. It's Nicolas Cage went to the oldies.
Yeah.
It's just... the poster is just Nicolas Cage shirtless working out. This man has been in multiple action movies. This is the most cut I think he has ever been in anything ever. And it's for a forgotten Canadian indie
production.
1987, a huge year for Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
2 of his most beloved roles. Of course, it's the Coen brothers, Raising Arizona.
Yep, great film.
And Norman Jewison's Moonstruck, in which Cher slaps him and tells him to snap out of it. It's around this time that, specifically with Peggy Sue Got Married and Moonstruck, that you start noticing as a fan of this guy's acting that he's a fan of weird voices.
Yeah.
He does 2 weird accents in those movies that are ostensibly
a lot of strange accent choices that he goes through throughout his career, which I'm delighted for him to do.
Absolutely, he's making choices, and maybe
he's being courageous, and a lot of other actors wouldn't do that.
Maybe they don't work out, but he commits to it.
Exactly,
God damn it! And maybe the accent wavers throughout the film, but
God bless him.
Once he remembers that he's doing it, he's back on it again.
Yeah.
Speaking of weird fucking accents, 1988, he's in Vampire's Kiss.
Hell yeah, he is.
Which is
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J.
Keep going.
No. What a delightful movie that is.
We've now seen. I've now seen The Best of Times twice. We had to push this recording back for scheduling reasons. But the first time I watched The Best of Times, I needed a bit of a palate cleanser, so I finally watched Vampire's Kiss.
That was a palate cleanser.
Absolutely, I needed to do
what
something
a double
to feel like that.
feature.
It really was. And the one thing that I can say about Vampire's Kiss is that, boy, that movie is normal. That's a normal ass movie, and he's playing a very subdued, relatable character.
For those of you who haven't seen Vampire's Kiss, Nicolas Cage, as like this Wall Street yuppie type, has convinced himself that he's turning into a vampire.
Yes, it's a movie where he
like
thinks
like somewhat American Psycho-ish.
He thinks he's a vampire. Turns out he's just an asshole.
The movie ends with him like being a deranged man, just yelling in the streets like any common downtown hobo.
I did not understand one thing that was going on in that movie, and I loved all of it. I'm like, I'm so confused, but I am along for the ride. And this is great.
And he spends that whole movie talking in a southern twang.
A southern twang that gets stronger and weaker depending on what the scene is. Oh, what a delight that movie was. 1989, one of his most forgotten films. He's an Italian film called Time to Kill, which, according to the Wikipedia synopsis, sounds like a real bummer. He plays an Italian lieutenant in Ethiopia who is suffering from a toothache, and while wandering through the jungle, meets and rapes a young Ethiopian woman. Thanks, Italy. What is up with that country?
I don't know.
And its cinema output.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. That sounds like I found that I'm all like, is this the most obscure Nicolas Cage movie? And then I read the synopsis and I'm all like, nope, never mind. Not doing an episode on that one. No, thank you.
Yeah.
1990, he is in David Lynch's Wild at Heart, where he and Laura Dern are lovers on the run from a colorful assortment of killers, including a great Willem Dafoe, who I would wager like Willem Dafoe is like the next like Cage level actor we gotta do an episode on one of these days, because I love that guy. I know you have said on the podcast before you're a little David Lynch averse.
Yeah.
I would call that one of his more digestible movies. It's pretty fun.
Okay.
I would check that out. I mean, watch it for the cage of it all. Really.
Just get in the cage.
Get in that cage. In particular, he plays a character who is a little obsessed with Elvis, which is interesting given that he would go on to marry Elvis's daughter.
Yeah.
Right. 1993, he's in the well-liked crime thriller Red Rock West.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
they don't make movies like that anymore, I'd say. Or at least, the popular movies. It's just a simple movie,
Yeah. A movie like that would go straight to streaming these days. That's the world we're living in.
That's very true, yeah. But yeah, that's like a very well-structured movie, very well-scripted movie, and it's basically 4 characters. It's about a drifter that comes in.
I love that.
Yeah, it's about a drifter that comes into town, Actually, I shouldn't spoil the fuck movie.
Sure.
Yeah, everyone go check out Red Rock West.
After that, speaking of Nicolas Cage loses his shit, he's in the cult classic Deadfall, which is one of his most insane performances, which was directed by his brother Christopher. Then comes a string of light comedies that he does from 92 to 94 that seemingly were made to be shown on TBS Superstation on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
Like, these are just like these like sort of like light fluffy affairs that are like, if you went to like Blockbuster to like rent a movie, this would be like the second rental.
Okay.
You know how everyone's all like, we'll get this movie, and
We'll get another one. Yeah,
movie.
2 for 1, yeah.
So this includes Honeymoon in Vegas with James Caan and Sarah Jessica Parker, Amos and Andrew with Samuel L. Jackson, Guarding Tess, where he is a Secret Service agent who is assigned to protect Shirley MacLaine's ex-first lady, and Trapped in Paradise, where he, John Lovitz, and Dana Carvey are 3 criminal brothers, and they're stuck in a snowy town.
Yeah, that's a Christmas movie, right?
That's a movie that exists as a poster for
That's
me.
true, yeah.
It's them like stuck in like a snow globe or something. Yeah.
I remember Dana Carvey having like a weird fucking accent in that as well. Like he thought he was going to do a Joe Pesci throughout the entire movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. That's definitely on Disney Plus.
I probably.
If
Yeah.
if you ever need like
I think it's a Christmas movie. I'm not too.
it's
familiar.
definitely a winter movie.
That's true, yeah.
Yes. 1995, he's in this film called Leaving Las Vegas, which I'm seeing here won him the Oscar for Best Actor?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I haven't seen that movie, but what you just said about how he won an Oscar for it, That always gives me a chuckle because his character shares the name of one of my longtime friends, Ben Sanderson.
Oh, really?
So every once
that's fun.
Yeah, so shout out to my buddy Ben Sanderson if you're listening. I don't think he listens to the show.
Right.
But every once in a while, we'll always say Nicolas Cage, best known for his Oscar-winning portrayal of Ben Sanderson.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that movie in a really long time. By all accounts, it's probably quite depressing because, of course, he plays an alcoholic who decides to go to Las Vegas to
drink himself to death.
Pointedly drink himself to death.
Yeah.
And the relationship he has with Elizabeth Shue's sex worker, who, and it's like a really interesting relationship because she's all like, I'm not going to stop you from killing yourself. Like, she meets him on his level and just like becomes like a steady friend.
Yeah.
That he also pays for sex. But you know, it would be rude if it would be rude if he didn't. Frankly.
Yeah.
She's a working woman. Okay, so this is my favorite thing about like the Nicolas Cage filmography. He wins the Oscar for Best Actor for this searing dramatic performance. Here are the next 3 films he makes. 1996, The Rock.
Fuck yeah.
1997, Con Air.
Fuck yeah.
Also 1997, Face Off.
Fuck yeah.
Just like that's crazy. That's the craziest run of films. It will never not be the most nuts thing. Someone who immediately won an Oscar went off and did.
Once you win that Oscar, man, like you're the toast of Hollywood. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Absolutely.
And he was like, well, like we got an Oscar winner to be in our action movie, and then the action movies came out, and they're beloved fucking classics.
It's not just that he did 3 action movies. It's that he did 3 of the most seminal, well-loved action films of the 90s.
Yeah. When you think of like 90s excess, you think of those 3 movies.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I will never not love the fact that at one point in time in 1997, you could go to the movie theater, buy a ticket for Con Air, walk out, and then immediately walk into Face Off. What a time to be alive.
Oh, man.
My God.
Yeah, if I could turn back time.
1998, he's in 2 films. He's in the romance film City of Angels with Meg Ryan. He's also in the Brian De Palma film Snake Eyes. Have you seen that?
I have not, actually.
I feel like that's now at like the top of my list of like the next Nicolas Cage movie I need to see. It just looks cool. I haven't seen a De Palma film in a while. Cool. That's like his immediate follow-up to Mission Impossible, so it's like 90s De Palma was really cool. 1999, he's in Joel Schumacher's 8mm, one of like the grimiest movies, scuzziest movies ever made, which it will never stop being funny. Like 8 millimeter, 8mm, as it is styled as, is like the biggest overcorrection a director has ever made, because that was Schumacher's follow-up to Batman and Robin, where he's all like, okay, they didn't like that.
Yeah.
What if I make the polar opposite movie from that?
Yeah.
Where snuff films, basically. Also in 1999, he's in Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead, where he plays a depressed ambulance driver.
Surprised he hasn't worked with Scorsese
again?
Yeah,
absolutely. 2000, he's in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah.
He's also in The Family Man.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah.
Probably Brett Ratner's best movie.
I would say by default it's maybe Brett Ratner's best movie. And of course
which is a low bar.
It is. It's that and Red Dragon and then everything else. I have never seen the Rush Hour movies. And now knowing what I know about Brett Ratner, you know what? Probably never will see the Rush Hour movie. I feel like that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
I feel like if I want to watch Jackie Chan do some action, I
yeah.
have a wealth of other things that I can check out. The Family Man did give us the Nicolas Cage Wants Chocolate Cake song.
Yeah.
Which I texted you.
The Harry Partridge
today.
animated. Yeah, I remember that.
So you know, it's a net positive.
It's one of those movies that spawned a Nick Cage meme. One of many Nicolas Cage memes.
Absolutely. 2001, the most hilarious film title of all time, Captain Corelli's Mandolin.
Oh, God.
Where he is literally an Italian man. And if you watch the trailer and you hear the Italian accent he's attempting for that movie, you're like, how? You grew up in an Italian family. How is this happening?
I remember, oh God, you just unlocked a weird memory for me where I think I saw Nicolas Cage on like The Tonight Show or whatever, and he was promoting the movie, and he's just like chit-chatting with Leno at the time. And then when they're throwing to the clip, he's like, so can you tell us about what happens in this clip? And Nicolas Cage looks very disinterested. He's like, oh, I'm doing something. I don't know. I don't remember. It's like, wow, he did not care for this movie.
Yeah. Also in 2001, randomly, he is the voice of Jacob Marley in an animated Christmas Carol movie boldly called Christmas Carol the Movie.
Huh.
All those other fucking Christmas Carol movies, fuck that. No. This is the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just like this weird, weirdly stacked cast. Kate Winslet, Michael Gambon, Rhys Ifans, Simon Callow, the height of British...
Simon Cowell?
Simon Callow.
Oh, Callow. Okay,
who you may remember from the movie Blue Iguana as
the old guy.
The old guy who got to say all the swear words.
Right.
Yes, he was Scrooge. 2002, he reunites with John Woo for Wind Talkers.
I haven't seen that.
Nope, me neither. Nope. And then
Will I see it? Probably not.
And also in 2002 is his only directorial effort to date. It's a little independent film called Sunny that he produced through his production company. It's about a male prostitute played by James Franco. Cage also has a small role as a pimp whose name is Acid Yellow.
Oh, I need to watch that movie for that alone.
I would just look up the clip of him in the movie on YouTube. You don't have to sit through the entire thing, but I watched that movie a long time ago, but I've never forgotten his performance in that. Because he's in one scene and he's all like, I'm just going to turn this up to 12 is what I'm going to do here. Also in 2002, his second and to date only other Oscar nomination, Adaptation.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to say is a good candidate for maybe his best performance. I love that movie, and I love his dual performance in that as Charlie and Donald Kaufman. I think that it's just some of the best acting he's done.
Absolutely, yeah.
2003, he's in Matchstick Men, which I mentioned. 2004, National Treasure, a movie that people like.
That's a crowd-pleasing movie. I like that movie.
National Treasure is like the perfect encapsulation of fine. Like that's like if you want to like boil down like a film to like its bare essence, I'm all like this is good. That's something that I watched. You know, I don't have strong feelings about National Treasure one way or the other. It's not my franchise.
I got strong feelings for the first one. I think it's a good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's a
ripping yarn.
It's a nice popcorn flick. It's far-fetched as all get out, but fun. It's a fun movie, well executed.
I mean, it gave us Nicolas Cage saying we have to steal the Declaration of Independence. Fair enough. 2005, he's in Lord of War, where he plays like an arms dealer. I know I've seen that, but I don't remember anything about it. The thing I remember about Lord of War is that it has one of the coolest movie posters of all time.
Yeah, him like it's him made out of bullets.
It's him made out of bullets. And it also has a fantastic opening credits sequence where it shows like the creation of a bullet on like the assembly line, and it starts off with like the building of the bullet, and then by the time it gets the directed by credit, the bullet is inside the brain of a small child. Len, you know what kind of movie you're in for.
I was gonna say I love a good assembly line opening credit sequence, but man,
well, it's gonna make you feel bad now. Make you feel bad for feeling that way. Also in 2005, he's in The Weatherman, which is another movie that I know I've seen, but I remember very little about.
He walks around with like a crossbow, right?
Because people throw ice cream at him. Because they don't like the weather. I don't know. It seems like a weird movie. I don't really remember much about it.
Okay.
But that's what I remember. They throw milkshakes at him, and then he carries around a crossbow. And I believe there's a line in the trailers like, people stop throwing shakes at me now.
Oh, now that I'm armed.
Mostly because I have the crossbow. It's about something. I don't think it's about that, but that's part of it. 2006. This is a movie I completely forgot existed. I'm pitching this now as maybe a future episode. He's in the animated film The Ant Bully.
The Ant Bully. Oh.
About a little kid who gets shrunk down to the size of an ant, and then I guess they go on an adventure or whatever. He plays the wizard Zoc.
Oh, okay, yeah, we are watching this movie someday.
Listen to this voice cast, Jameson. Nicolas Cage, Julia Roberts, Paul Giamatti, Meryl Streep.
Oh, come on.
Bruce Campbell, Regina King, Lily Tomlin, Ricardo Montalban.
Holy shit.
Disgraced former Smallville actor Allison Mack.
Oh,
this
wow.
thing is wild. This thing just keeps going. So yeah, possible future episode there. 2006, he's in World Trade Center, which is like the other film, the other 9/11 film that came out that year. That's the lesser remembered one than United 93. There's nothing wrong with World Trade Center. It's just kind of like a very standard somber film about him and Michael Pena getting trapped by the rubble. It's basically just like a two-person survival movie.
Yeah.
That had like the background of the worst terror attack in America's history.
Yeah, I just remember like the attitude of that around the time was like they're still not ready for that. Yeah.
But whereas United 93 went on to get nominated for Oscars, World Trade Center really was the one where it's all like, okay, that is too soon. We actually don't need to see this. Also 2006. Now, here's where things take a turn, because 2006, of course, is also the year of The Wicker Man, which I feel like really is like the movie that kind of poisoned people's remembrance of Nicolas Cage as like, this guy's a terrible actor.
Yeah.
It is one of the most watchable bad movies ever made.
It is, yeah. If you want to see Nicolas Cage punch out a woman in a bear suit, and it has the infamous, "Oh, the bees are in my eyes."
My favorite thing about that movie is still the jump scare within the jump scare, where he's having like the dream sequence.
Yeah, and he's holding like the drowned body.
And then he wakes up like, oh, it was all a dream. And then he scares him again. And the second time he's like, God damn it! Yeah. It's so funny.
If you don't want to watch the movie, check out the YouTube compilation of like the craziest moments from
Absolutely. And then this just really starts a downward spiral for Nicolas Cage. Next year is Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
After that is...
The best review I ever heard of that movie was, for years people thought Nicolas Cage would overact so hard his head would explode, and finally with Ghost Rider it happens.
He manifested it, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like, of course, the thing that I didn't mention, of course, is that, I don't know the time frame here, but there was, of course, the period where Nicolas Cage was going to be Superman.
Yeah.
They went ahead, and that almost was a movie that got made with Tim Burton from a script by Kevin Smith. It's one of the greatest what-if movies ever made.
Yeah.
And he obviously was smarting from that movie never getting off the ground. So it's all like, I just need to play a superhero. I don't care which one it is. And he ended up with Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Which still weirdly kind of suits him. He's not fun in that performance. He's really giving it.
Have you ever seen the behind the scenes footage of the sequel, where it's him with the makeup?
He goes method for the sequel.
Oh yeah.
He like really gets into it.
Him like doing all these neck movements like a snake and everything, and then just like going all Nicolas Cage freak out against people wearing that crazy makeup.
And it absolutely makes no sense within the context of the movie.
Oh yeah.
After that is Next, where he can see into the future, but like a little bit. Just a little bit.
That is such a ridiculous movie. It opens with him like having a giant martini at a diner. Everyone check out Next. It's a ridiculous movie.
I haven't seen it, and
it's great.
I'm probably about to spoil it, but doesn't that movie end with him like basically revealing that the entire movie was just him seeing how the movie would play out, and then him just going like, no, I'm not going to do any of that. And then essentially everything that happens in the movie didn't actually happen. We're just watching nothing.
I don't remember.
2008, Bangkok Dangerous. 2009, Knowing. Knowing is like the world's going to end. Something like that.
Yeah, and like because it's like all these like weird high concept action movies that are just so ridiculous and bad. That's what really compounded like, oh man, Nicolas Cage is kind of a joke.
He just had a bad run of things. I'm imagining around this time is when the tax problems were also starting. So this was him taking whatever project he could while he was still an A-list actor who appeared in films that made it to theaters.
Yeah.
And then eventually those dried up. He's all like, well, just give me whatever script you have. I don't care if it's going straight to Redbox. I need the money.
Yeah.
Then comes two performances that kind of get him back in people's good graces. Two films that people genuinely like and he's really good in. The first is 2009's Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, which is a bonkers crazy performance by him, but it's in like a really interesting, equally bonkers movie.
Yeah, heightened reality.
From
right?
Werner Herzog, and it's just weird ass shit going on. Another amazing Nicolas Cage line where he says, shoot him again, his soul is still dancing. That's just great.
Yeah.
And then he's Big Daddy in Kick-Ass, where he famously does his entire performance with an Adam West impression that he did not tell anyone he was doing until the camera started rolling.
Which makes absolute sense because it's meant to take place in a world where superheroes don't exist, but this guy wants to be, he's inspired by his childhood hero, which was the Adam West Batman. Yeah, those are two examples, I think, of directors who know how to use Nicolas Cage's crazy for the betterment of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. 2010 is The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is the same director as National Treasure, and that's them making another Disney action adventure. Didn't take off. Did not take off the same way the National Treasure films did. 2011, we're kind of back to the doldrums here. Season of the Witch.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Not as good as I hoped it would be.
No.
Ron Perlman's in that.
You think I would like a film with Nicolas Cage and Ron Perlman tooling around in medieval London or whatever, killing some witches. Christopher Lee's in that too,
Yep.
right? Yeah, that should be fun.
It should have been.
What a bummer.
Kind of a slog.
Drive Angry. Now that
Loved that movie.
people seem to like that.
Yeah.
I'm a little more mid on it. It's kind of like an edgelord movie, but like there's some fun shit in
William
it.
Fichtner's fantastic.
I mean,
in
when
that
is
movie.
he not?
Yeah.
When is he
as like the
bad?
devil's bounty hunter?
Absolutely.
No, that was one of the first 3D movies that I saw in theaters, and like by all accounts, it was like one of those movies that did 3D right.
That's right, because that's coming off. That's 2 years after Avatar, kind of like kick drives the whole 3D craze and whatever. So yeah, that was sort of like a way of saying, oh, like Nicolas Cage will be driving right at you, and he'll be driving angry.
Yeah. It's great. He escaped hell, and there's a scene where he's having a big shootout with the bad guys while he's in bed with a prostitute.
Yes, I do remember that now. Okay, now is when the straight-to-DVD stuff starts. For the sake of time, I'm just going to skip over everything that just went straight to DVD, because there's too many of them.
Of that list, did you write down Stolen?
I did not write down Stolen. No,
Stolen's great. Well, the theme song to Stolen's great.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. It
cool.
sounds like a racing game on the Sega CD.
Wow, I didn't even know that. Stolen.
It's basically a poor man's Taken.
Yeah. Also from the Stolen, a poor man's Taken. It means the same thing.
Yeah.
It's great. Also from the director of Con Air. A weird rekindling there.
Yeah.
I've written down a few. I've written down like a few that I've seen that I would recommend people check out. But I'll move on here. 2011, he's back with Joel Schumacher for Trespass, a real terrible home invasion thriller with him and Nicole Kidman. 2013, he of course voices Grug in The Croods.
Of course.
A pretty good little DreamWorks animated film. He's in the indie film Joe, which is a film that I really recommend. It's one of his best dramatic performances. That's a David Gordon Green film. 2014, he is in the faith-based film Left Behind.
Yeah, I watched that. Not great.
Which means this is the second episode in a row that I get to say from the director of A Sunday Horse. It's weird how
Lovely.
It's weird how that happened. 2016, he's in the straight-to-DVD film The Trust, which is a really good little crime thriller.
Is that the one he did with Elijah Wood?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's them.
That's pretty good.
It's them robbing like a safe or whatever.
Yeah.
They're both really good in it. I really like it. Weirdly, the final film of Jerry Lewis. Who plays his father. A weird little footnote for that one. But yeah, that's another one that I recommend. He has a very small supporting role in the Oliver Stone film Snowden. The Edward Snowden film. One of the most boring films I ever watched, but I remember he's kind of good at it. But it's just a very blink and you'll miss him role. He's in the film Army of One, where he has an absolutely obnoxious voice that he's using as a guy who wants to travel to Afghanistan and murder Osama bin Laden. Russell Brand plays God. It's from the director of Borat. It's a comedy that kind of went nowhere. He is in Mario Van Peebles' USS Indianapolis Men of Courage, which is a movie about the story that Quint tells in Jaws about the ship going down and people getting eaten by the sharks.
Okay.
The real thing that happened in life. 2017, he's in the film Arsenal, which is not a sequel to Deadfall. But for some reason, he gives the exact same performance that he gives in Deadfall.
Is he playing the same character?
He's not, but he is.
Okay.
It's a very weird outlier where it's just this trashy little thriller with, I feel like, Adrian Grenier, but he plays the bad guy, and he's literally giving the exact same performance in Deadfall. It's a weird choice, but again, I don't think anyone remembered Deadfall, so I think the directors on that were all like, that's fine, Nick. Do whatever you want. We don't care.
Yeah, because I think I remember hearing that like Nicolas Cage reprises a character he played from an obscure movie like almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's not playing literally the same
No, he's
character.
not, as you say, but I remember there being like side-by-side screenshots of that, and it's like, whoa, he's like almost identical.
Yeah, if you want to see some...
This is that character aged, however many
Well, not to spoil Deadfall, but in Deadfall, he does get his head put into a deep fryer. So it's literally not the same character, because he would not survive that, but... 2017, he's in the film Mom and Dad, where him and Selma Blair try to murder their children because all parents want to murder their children. A movie that should be fun, but really isn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then that's when the grandparents show up at the end of the movie to fight their adult children.
Yeah, basically. And then 2018, this is where the reclamation of Nicolas Cage really happens. I feel like that period from like Wicker Man to like Mom and Dad is where he's kind of in the doldrums. He has outliers like Bad Lieutenant here and there, but this is where Nicolas Cage comes back into everyone's good graces. Like, actually, we completely misjudged this guy. He's one of our best actors. And I feel like the movie that really kicked that off was Mandy.
Yeah. I finally watched that a couple of months ago. Haunting fucking movie.
A tough film to sit through. But
and then halfway through, the fucking Cheddar Goblin shows up.
And then it just becomes like this weird ethereal
nihilistic,
sort of,
great movie to watch in total darkness, because what a visual spectacle that movie is as well.
So he has a great year in 2018. He does Mandy, and he also gets to play both Spider-Man in Into the Spider-Verse and Superman in Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, so he got the two big ones. And he crossed them both off his list that year. 2019, he's in the really good science fiction film Color Out of Space.
Yep, I saw that too. I'm not a huge horror movie guy, but yeah, that's another visually striking,
a very disturbing Lovecraftian type story. 2021, he's in two absolutely terrible movies, and maybe one of my favorite Nicolas Cage movies of all time. The bad ones are Prisoner of the Ghostland, which is an obnoxious movie where he plays a guy who gets his testicles blown off at the beginning, and he basically just screams the entire time. Awful movie, reprehensible director as well, so skip that one. And then he's also in Willy's Wonderland, a Five Nights at Freddy's ripoff where his character is completely silent the entire time.
I was going to ask you about that, if he was like totally silent in that movie.
He says not a line of dialogue, and you know what? I heard the negative buzz going into this. I watched it. God damn it if he's not doing something in that movie. God damn it if he's not giving an actual fucking performance.
Okay.
He's not sleepwalking through that thing.
All
He's
right.
actually doing something.
As he rarely does.
And then in 2021, he's also in Pig.
Haven't seen Pig, but you raved about Pig.
It's phenomenal. It's one, and he has like maybe like one moment where he yells in that, but the rest of the time it's one of the more subdued performances he's ever given. He plays like a former chef who's like retreated to like a hermit life in the woods, and his only friend is his truffle hunting pig, and he survives by selling truffles to the big restaurants in town. And then one day, two scumbums come and kidnap his pig, and he goes on what you think is going to be like a roaring rampage
like
of
a John Wick style revenge movie.
He mostly just like sits down and talks to people, and then by the end of it, they're left like shells of what they once were. It's so good.
Yeah, it sounds like it has the makings of one of those ridiculous straight-to-streaming Nicolas Cage movies, and then he turns out a phenomenal performance where he was he nominated for
No,
that?
but he should have been. He really should have been.
Yeah.
And then 2022, he's sort of coasting off of everyone's newfound love of him with a very flawed movie, I think, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
I watched that just a couple of nights ago in preparation for this.
What did you think of that?
I liked it. I liked the first 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah. Once it really kicked into the kidnapping of the family portion of it, it lost me a little bit as sort of a love letter to like this one guy in like an exaggerated version of himself. I thought it was interesting. Clearly, fans of this guy wanted to write this piece for him. I used to have this joke where I wanted to see like an Avengers style team up of Nicolas Cage playing all of his like ridiculous characters in one movie where they have to.
This is maybe the closest.
This is the closest we're going to get to something like that.
Yeah. My main takeaway from that movie is in the film, Tiffany Haddish has the line, Croods 2 kind of slaps. And then based off that, I watched Croods 2, and you know what? She's right. Croods 2 does kind of slap.
And they go to bat for Paddington 2, which, that's a good movie.
Absolutely, yeah. And then,
but you're right, it is flawed.
And then last year, he had a very big year. He's in a movie that basically doesn't exist called The Retirement Plan. He's Dracula in Renfield, which is a movie that people didn't like. I kind of really dug it, and I think he's great in it.
Yeah.
And then he has a cameo as Superman in The Flash, except he does not, because that's like entirely AI.
I was gonna say it's the second time he's played an animated Superman.
Indeed, yes. But
I think he hated that.
Yeah.
I think he actually like shot some scenes.
And then they didn't use any of it.
Yeah, they
And
just
then
resorted him to CGI.
I think they just needed him on set so they could like create like the CGI avatar of him or whatever.
I mean, in lieu of using the actual Superman actor they had on hand in Henry Cavill or Brandon Routh, who had played a Superman in a forgotten Superman movie. No, let's go and tip our hat to a failed Superman project that no one saw and only film trivia nerds are going to be familiar with.
And we'll have him fight the giant spiders.
Yeah.
So finally, John Peters can rest. He finally got Superman fighting a giant robot spider for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then he's in a movie that everyone really seemed to like called Dream Scenario, where he plays like a professor who for some reason starts appearing in everyone's dreams, and it's cool.
Right.
And it's cool for a while until things take like a sinister turn and everyone turns on him. This is a movie that people really liked. A lot of people were saying he should have been nominated for an Oscar. This is the rare case where I really didn't like his performance.
Oh, okay.
I just found him really grating, and again, he's trying like a silly voice, and I didn't have a lot of sympathy for the guy.
Okay.
And the movie kind of asks that you have sympathy for him.
I still want to check it out because I think it's an interesting concept.
Absolutely. I think opinions differ on that. I'm definitely in the minority because a lot of people like that movie. It kind of left me cold.
Okay.
But what do I know? Maybe I'm wrong about it.
You're the kind of guy that doesn't like the National Treasure movies.
I don't dislike them. I'm neutral on the National Treasure. They should be neutral treasure.
Yeah.
And then coming up,
Oh, boy.
he's got a film called Arcadian, which seems to be an apocalyptic movie where he's protecting his 2 young sons. He's playing a serial killer in a very cool movie coming out called Lawn Legs. He has a thriller in production called The Surfer. And interestingly, they apparently are going to make a sequel to Lord of War. Tentatively titled Lords of War, in which he is back, and apparently Bill Skarsgård will play his son. And those are the movies that he has in production, and one assumes that he'll be back for the 3rd Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
He's not listed right now, but
Why not?
That seems inevitable.
Sure.
I'm sure he was in the tail end of the second one, so I'm sure they'll get him for that. But it's at this point where, like these movies that I just listed here of the films that he has coming out, it is worth mentioning that recently Nicolas Cage has made the statement that he does have plans to retire from acting in movies.
I could see that. He's been in enough of them.
He's been in enough of them, and he had an interview. He's had several interviews where he's talked about this. Actors have said that they're going to retire multiple times and often can be roped back into things.
If the project's right, or the check clears.
But he says like he wants to take this as an opportunity to try and he says he's really interested in the whole streaming universe. So he kind of wants to get into like long form TV. And I wrote down a quote from him because I was reading this article in Variety. It's a Variety article written by Zach Sharf. I wrote down this quote from Nicolas Cage because this really kind of warmed my heart when I read what his justification was for stepping away from the movies. And I'll just read this verbatim here. I'm going to be 60 next month, and my dad died at 75. So it's like, if I'm lucky, I have more years than he did, but I don't know. And so what am I going to do with my next 15 years? Well, what's important? What's important is my children, and I have a baby daughter, and if I can find an episodic show to do that stays in one place where I don't have to keep leaving, we can all be together, that on a personal level would be great, but also I'm a student, and I don't know if I have anything else to learn in cinema. I might have something to learn in television. So yeah, I think that's a very well thought out answer.
Yeah.
And it brings up the fact that, as I was running down his filmography and I was looking at all of his credits, it does bring up the interesting fact that the only television he's ever done
is this episode that we're going
to... the best of times.
That is crazy to think about. Yeah. Yeah, and for a guy who has a reputation for being like just such an eccentric character outside of his movies, and his professional work is full of these broad characters, he does seem like a very thoughtful man, like when they're sitting down in interviews. Like, he is appreciative of his legacy. Like, he's never balked at he's never felt like a punchline. He's always sort of like leaned into it and been appreciative for like how people respond to him. And, he has like a very thoughtful approach to his acting. everyone should check out that. Well, I forget what they call them, but whenever GQ sits down with an actor and they talk about like their
timeline of my career,
career, and like he
I love those,
and his is actually really fascinating, and to hear him talk about his career is delightful.
Look, anyone who makes that Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent movie is clearly someone who has no issue with his legacy or how people perceive him.
Mm-hmm.
He's very self-aware of how people think of him.
He's like in on the joke.
Yeah. And I think he's clearly a man that has his demons. You know, he's had multiple marriages. He kind of had like one incident where I think he was drunk and he kind of grabbed his wife's arm in public, and that kind of led to the end of that marriage or whatever. He's never been accused of doing anything awful or salacious or anything.
No, and throughout all his hardships, he's never really had like a tailspin that he never could recover from. He seemed to always find ways to get those flows, to get back on track, to stay in the good graces of the public.
Right, there was a period where we're all like, I guess Nicolas Cage just lives in this straight to DVD dungeon now. But no, he clawed his way out of that, and he's back in cinemas, and you could argue he's better than ever. He's so interesting right now as an actor.
No, and he's got an amazing legacy to look back on. He should enjoy his retirement from films if that's what he chooses to do. And no, this was actually really fascinating. Normally when you break down the filmographies of actors, there's plenty of times where like, oh, and in 1992 they were in this artsy drama with, a director you never heard of, with like a co-star you never heard of, and I just don't know. I don't have a way to weigh in. I've seen so many Nicolas Cage movies that I've found this really interesting too.
Good. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. And this rundown of the filmography went a lot longer than we normally do.
Which is fine because the movie is only 45 minutes.
Look, man, I've now seen The Best of Times twice. I still barely have anything to say about it.
I got a lot. Okay. We'll have a lot to talk about, though.
All right. Well, we'll take a little break here. And hey, you know what? Nothing Movies will be right back.
Ready to go?
We now return to Nothing Movies.
Oh
boy. All right. So The Best of Times.
It was the worst of times.
Hey, that's our episode. That's all we have to say. I was wondering how long it would take for us to get to that. The first ever acting role of Nicolas Cage. It was directed by Don Misher. 15-time Emmy Award winner, Don Misher. As a producer and a director, his credits include multiple Academy Award ceremonies, the Obama inaugural celebration at the Lincoln Memorial, the Kennedy Center Honors, 100 episodes, the 100th anniversary of Carnegie Hall, Motown 25, Super Bowl halftime shows for Michael Jackson, Prince, the Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney, Tom Petty, and Bruce Springsteen, the Democratic National Convention, and the opening ceremonies of the 1996 Summer Olympics and 2002 Winter Olympics. So this guy,
holy shit,
doesn't necessarily direct like
this kind of stuff. Yeah, he's a heavy hitter.
He's a surprisingly heavy hitter that you've never heard of before.
Wow.
But he just directs like moments. Yeah, like moments in pop culture.
Yeah, just banger after banger of like must-see TV.
And this is one of like the rare narrative things that he's directed. That's kind of wild. But I mean, what is there to say about the Best of Times, which is really styled as sort of like a Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In type of show, but for teenagers.
I would say kids.
Very much so, yes.
No, like this is... All right. Before we like break down exactly, beat for beat that goes on with this,
there's very little to break down, but sure, okay.
All right, so the concept of this show is that it's a couple of teenagers kind of breaking down the lives of what it's like to be a teenager while also doing a bunch of vaudeville-style one-liner shtick.
It's like Reader's Digest level jokes is what it is.
And they're all presented in 10-second vignettes.
Like, I'm writing down notes for like about what a character says, and as I'm writing down the note, I'm hearing the next joke as I'm writing it down, and I'm coming up with the punchline of the joke before I'm even done writing my first note down. That's how fast this thing moves. I'm like, whoa, slow the fuck down, best of times. Jesus Christ.
It's funny that this was made in like the early 80s, because I would say something like this is perfect for the ADD generation, the TikTok generation that everyone's breaking through the coals for not having that long of attention span.
Yeah, this wouldn't necessarily feel out of place on YouTube. Except for the fact that there aren't a lot of jokes there are a lot of jokes, but there aren't a lot of jokes that work. And pointedly, sometimes they don't even tell jokes at all. They just tell like earnest truths.
Yeah.
About like what it's like about like concepts like getting older is scary and hope I don't get drafted
we'll get to that
into the war with El Salvador, which is totally a thing I had to look up.
Yeah.
That's a very specific moment in time that I didn't remember.
We'll have to get to that. But yeah, and then the other half is like, being a teenager is rough. When you try to get a job, they turn you down because you don't have experience. But how do you get experience when no one will give you a job?
And then
and then cut to next scene.
And then the other stuff is literally just like Slurpees, boys, magazines, and shit like that. It's just like yelling references at the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is like it is sort of like a Mickey Mouse Club type show, because we have all of these young actors who are named after themselves. So Nicolas Cage is playing Nick. Crispen Glover is playing Crispen. Everyone else has their names.
Their own name, yeah.
So it is very much... Now, obviously, this is not a one-for-one thing, because these are much older actors. It feels like they are actors who are kind of really on the cusp of maybe being like 18, 19. So
yeah.
they're not necessarily kids anymore. Now, I did watch this shortly on the tail end of watching the recent documentary Quiet on Set.
Oh no!
About the Nickelodeon fallout or whatever. So it was on my mind, the whole producing television with children as the stars, and
exploiting them for
this thankfully never went series.
For multiple reasons.
You can assume why.
Yeah.
Just by watching it. But what possibly what a very different career Nicolas Cage might have had if he had been doing several seasons of this. But so these aren't like kids or whatever, but that definitely there is like the dialogue happening right now where it's all like, do kids need to be in stuff? Do we need to force children to act? Seems bad. Seems like they're not treated very well. Seems like we should have a lot more policies in place to protect them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, hopefully, that was shining a light on a time where that was the exception to the rule.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
the best of times.
Best of times, yeah. So we open in Crispen Glover's bedroom, where you can see the boom mic in the shot.
you can do a drinking game for every time that boom mic appears, my friend. Oh boy.
So Crispen Glover is essentially our host to these vignettes.
Yeah, because when you think like well-rounded all-American
everyman,
boy,
yeah,
you think Crispen Glover,
the most relatable teens, yeah.
This is before he gains his cult following and whatnot, but like it's still there. He's still like very obviously super weird kid.
He's talking like, it's so strange being a teenager because you're not a kid anymore, but you're not quite an adult, and we are the future, and it's so hard having all this hassle being thrown at us from our teachers and from our parents, and the entire time he's monologuing this stuff, I don't think he blinks once.
Right.
It was so off-putting.
He's all like, oh, right, human beings do that. Right. Oh, my eyes are so moist. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's putting off cleaning his room. His mom is giving him the business from off camera. It sounds like a real battle axe of a mom, who I learned from the credits is actually voiced by Crispen Glover's real mom.
For authenticity, you see.
Absolutely. Crispen Glover, I should also point out, also a beneficiary of nepotism, because his father is character actor Bruce Glover, who played a James Bond henchman in Diamonds Are Forever.
Using that clout.
Well, it got Crispen's foot in the door, I'm assuming,
true, yeah.
But obviously, it's not. Your uncle's not Francis Ford Coppola, but it's something.
It's something they talked about on set. Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, he's our lead to the rest of the cast.
And then he
of characters.
introduces all of his friends.
His friend Nick, played by Nicolas Cage,
who's doing one-arm push-ups on the beach.
I'm just gonna say, like, young Nicolas Cage was fucking cut.
He's looking great.
Yeah,
he's got that boy in blue body, buddy.
Yeah. So he's like the jocular, girl chasing kind of friend of his. He described
the handsome jock, of course, played by Nicolas Cage, who even at this age is an interesting looking fella.
Yeah. The other kids that we have are Kevin, sort of like the loser guy who can't get a date, nerdy guy. Julie, who's like the popular, stuck-up cheerleader. David, the other friend with glasses.
His thing is he has jobs.
He has 3 part-time jobs,
Yeah.
and I guess he's clumsy at the store. Lisa, who... what was her thing again?
She works out and eats snacks.
She was the fat friend, unfortunately.
I mean, she was fat for like 1980s standards.
I know.
Whatever, which means she's a normal looking person.
Her introductory scene is her jogging while also eating a cupcake or something. I just felt so bad for her.
Well, it's a net neutral in that point. You're basically why run at all, really, if that's the case.
Jill, the brunette friend that Crispen has a crush on, and Janet, who I'm not entirely sure is part of the crew.
Yeah,
because she never shares any scenes with others
until the very end.
But her thing is like she wants to be a part of this band. And she's got to work her way up from like roadie to lead guitarist of this band.
Now, I will say, if they were giving out medals for who became famous after shooting The Best of Times, Jill most definitely gets the bronze because her name is Jill Sholin. And she's somewhat of a big star in the horror film community.
Oh, okay.
She's a bit of a scream queen.
Okay.
So she definitely has a following. People definitely like her. She's mostly known for this movie called Popcorn, which has a fantastic poster, a very memorable poster that I've always remembered.
Look at that.
Where a skeleton is eating out of her head.
Oh, I thought that was like a masquerade.
I think it's meant to be like a popsicle. I'm actually really not sure what's going on here. But so there are technically 3 people in this who went on to bigger and better things. And then there's everyone else.
Everybody else.
Pretty much everyone else in this went on to do absolutely nothing. This is the highlight of their thing. But yeah, they're just like a group of like buddies, and they're just like the
trying to make it in the world.
They're trying to make it in the world, and they're just like a bunch of fresh-faced, lovely, thoroughly white teens.
Yeah.
There are some black kids, but they are not part of the gang.
No.
They're in the back. There's like one of them who's like part of the band, and he gets
lines.
He gets lines, but he is not part of the gang.
No, I don't think we ever learn his name.
No.
So that's our cavalcade of characters. We find out that this entire show is brought to you by Charmin paper towels or Charmin wipes or whatever the fuck they do.
This was like an advertisement thing that I kind of sort of remember, but it's the thing where it's like it's a freeze frame image of like Crispen and 3 of the girls, and then Charmin. A package of Charmin paper towels comes in like a stencil.
Yeah, like a graphic over it.
Yeah, like over top of them. Like that's an advertising technique that you don't see anymore for obvious reasons.
But I certainly remember that style of graphic.
I mean, it might as well have been like Charmin presents The Best of Times for how prominent it is in these opening credits.
It's the Charmin paper towel teen variety hour.
Absolutely, like back in like the 50s where it's all like the Colgate Smile Time variety hour.
I mean,
brought to you by Folgers.
It's a lot better than like those fucking cartoon bears that dance with paper stuck to their asses.
Yeah, bring back the stencil. Yeah. Absolutely. Send the bears into the woods. Thank you.
So, our first vignette is with Nicolas Cage shadowboxing in like a skate park on at Venice Beach, talking about how much he loves the movie Rocky.
Well, wait, remember Rocky? Boy, what a movie! The best scene was when Stallone kept hitting that side of beef. Remember that? He kept hitting that side of beef, just smashing it with his fist. That was all raw. Hit, smash, hit, making it all bloody. Sure did a job on that beef.
And you know what? I just realized right now, he's referencing a movie that his aunt is the star of.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even make that connection until just now. Yeah, he's all like, Stallone's like pounding that beef. Oh, it's making it
That's
all...
the best part of the movie.
That's the best part of the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
He's making it all like raw and bloody, and Kevin's eating a sandwich, and that classic joke was all like, well, now I'm not going to eat it. He just throws a perfectly good sandwich out because Nick is talking about beef.
And he's very intense and aggressive, and he says, oh, don't you watch any Disney movies?
Wow, and then we're immediately on to the next thing. That is the entire film, folks. That's all that this is that for 42 minutes.
But it is awesome to see that Nicolas Cage always had his foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah, these are his first spoken lines in any feature whatsoever, and he is immediately on brand.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to our next sketch. It's the three girls. I don't know if we need to describe.
We don't need to talk all of them because truly, like some of them are just like absolutely nothing.
I know,
like they keep coming back to the three girls at their mirror and they're putting on makeup, and again they're just doing like these lame jokes where it's all like, I was out with a boy and we went all the way to San Francisco, and it's just that over and over and over again.
Can I just say that, like, can I just
I'm dying, oh my god.
Oh man, I imagine, like, it's probably a good thing that this thing didn't go to series for some.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, can you, like, what a pain in the ass it must have been to film something like this, where you show up to location and you're in one fucking scene and then you cut and you're done for the day. You show up for, like, one line and then you're clear.
Yeah, I mean, I think they reused some of the same sets. Like, obviously, we keep cutting back to the girls at the mirror, so obviously they probably had, like, 10 or 12 jokes that never made it to air. Like, there was, we gotta save this for the rest of the season, because obviously we're gonna get picked up for a full season. They were saving their best material for the jokes that didn't make... You don't want to put your best jokes in the pilot, James.
No, I guess
you gotta save those.
I guess not.
So is this where we meet our special guest star for the episode?
So they go to the store, like the convenience store, to return some bottles for like a 10-cent deposit or whatever. And the store clerk is played by Jackie Mason.
Yeah, just looking full of contempt and just like not happy to be there whatsoever. Which, to be fair, was his whole deal.
That was his.
So it's kind of hard to tell if he's enthusiastic for a project, because that's how he always acted.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Jackie Mason was a comedian, and his thing was just being a grumpy, sarcastic old Jewish man.
Right. Yeah, he's a very sort of Catskills sort of era comedian. Like, think Rodney Dangerfield with not a lot of the personality, or for that matter, like the comic timing. Like, he's just pulling out like the crustiest, dustiest old jokes and just dusting them off. Most of which he drops here.
Yeah.
For this here.
The trouble with you kids is you got no sense of responsibility. All you think about is money, sex, drugs. I think about it too. Trouble is I got no money. So every time I think of sex, my wife takes a drug. An aspirin, I'm talking about.
That kind of crap.
He doesn't have the one line where it's all like, you need your parents' love. I'll never forget my mother put her arms around my neck and said, boy, are you ugly. Which feels like a Dangerfield era joke, which also makes sense when you remember that Jackie Mason was in Caddyshack 2.
Yeah.
When Rodney Dangerfield
would
said,
not be in.
No, thank you.
He's who you get when Rodney Dangerfield said no.
Literally that, yes. Yeah, and then they bring in a bunch of bottles, and this leads to an inexplicable music number where they're
doing Stomp.
They're doing exactly. Stomp stole it from this.
Yeah, this is also like a surprise musical.
Yeah, there's a lot more musical numbers. Yeah, I was expecting like a sketch comedy show. They mostly just like sing like top 20 hits of like the era, or whatever. Like, we're jumping ahead here, but they have like a car wash number set to Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, which I looked up was a really recent song at the time. It just came out the year before.
It would have been like top of the charts probably.
Yeah, so it's like someone doing something now and then busting out, I don't know, what's a Kill Bill by SZA. You know, it's like something that's like very on the ball of like, people are still listening to this, you know, like this is, they keep referencing Dolly Parton
They do,
They
yeah.
reference her a couple of times, which is funny when you find out, because I was going through all of these actors to see if they had done anything else. David Rambo, who plays the store clerk or whatever, he would go on to write and produce Dolly Parton's Mountain Magic Christmas.
Oh.
So I don't know if there was a Dolly Parton connection or if that's just a weird coincidence.
That's how they get you the foot in the door, yeah.
That's how they get you. It's like, Dolly, remember?
Her people heard of this.
Yeah.
And, yeah, what? How did they reference her again? Oh yeah, the cheerleader and one of the other gals. So they're talking about like, oh, we're women, we can do whatever we want. Oh, we could be president someday, or Dolly Parton.
We could be president. Imagine it, Lisa. President. Do you want to be president? Sure. I'd make a great president. For me, it's either president or a country singer. I mean, I can play the guitar. Right. I write my own songs. Right. I could be another Dolly Parton. Maybe you should stick with being president.
I like that scene because they're listing all the things they could do, and one of the things they list is space scientist. Oh boy, yeah, we're gonna go all over the place with it. We
Yeah.
are not gonna go in chronological order.
No. Oh, like yeah. So they have that fucking stomp routine in the grocery store where they're like, I don't know, flicking the teeth of combs and using the dial tone of a phone and banging bottles. Did you notice that they robbed from the store during this scene?
Well,
too?
but Crispen says put it on my tab as he's walking out, so presumably
okay.
he'll pay for it eventually. But yeah, they do. I mean, that's the constant joke they go back to, is they keep taking advantage of Jackie Mason.
Yeah.
As the square adult.
Yeah.
In their lives.
the old Jewish man.
Exactly.
In their lives. Oh, you old. And so then we get to a scene where Jill has a very tender monologue about how she's scared of growing up and moving away from her friends. And
this was the moment I'm all like, oh, some of these aren't jokes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just like telling us shit.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get real.
They do, yeah. Which, I guess that's, for the teens out there.
I guess, like, what's the tone for this?
Speaking to the youth of the day.
The youth of the day were not watching this, I tell you that much.
I would have, if I was a teenager watching this, I would have thought it was like the lamest fucking shit
I would have
in the
turned
world.
it off when they start blowing on the bottles, thank you very much. Yeah.
No, it's geared as a show for teenagers, but this is clearly meant for like a younger audience because they're dancing around and they're doing all this fun, hokey stuff. And
well, because Crispen it frames the whole thing as like he's talking to adults. Like he says, it's all like, don't forget, you used to be teenagers too.
What I'm trying to say is, don't be like most adults and dismiss us with the simple, these kids today. Next time you see one of us, just say to yourself, hey, that used to be me.
And it's like, I don't know, like who is this made for, truly? Like, I don't know what audience this is for. And I guess the network didn't either, because it never went any further than this. And thank God.
Oh, and then we get to the scene where Nicolas Cage is teaching the nerdy Kevin guy how to pick up women, how to walk with confidence, and how to think to yourself.
This is Kevin's runner, as Kevin can't get a date for the dance, and he's always calling girls, and they're always turning them down.
Yeah, it's the most recurring. So him and Janet have like the only recurring bits where he keeps getting rejected for the dance, and she's trying to get into a band. That's
right.
Yeah, those are the only characters that get arcs in this fucking thing.
Yeah.
And so Nicolas Cage he gets right into his face and says like, you need to think to yourself, you are the most handsome man, and she is enthralled with my perfect body. You think that to yourself.
Well, Nick, what do you think of when you're looking at him like this?
I think, quote, I am the most beautiful man you have ever seen. My magnificent biceps drive you wild with desire, unquote. Stuff like that.
Yeah, the joke of the joke is that he goes over to the girl and just like, just pretend that you're talking to me to make me look cool in front of my friend, and then he falls over, and then the scene's over because they forgot to write a punchline. Like the entire thing feels very improvised. It feels like they just pointed the camera at them, and it's all like, like, you're popular, you're a fucking nerd, figure it out.
That's what growing up's all about, you dickheads.
We cut back to the three girls at the mirror. They're talking about a new diet where it's just bread and water. It sounds like you're in prison. Yeah, this lady killed her husband. I don't know. This is a really hard movie to review.
But I mean, the thing is, like, we could talk about like each of the little vignettes as they occur, but like there isn't a whole lot of substance to it. It's like, here's the setting, here's the dumb joke they tell, and it's over in 10 seconds.
Yeah,
like,
basically.
Like they cut back to Jackie Mason's store and he's like, hey kid, you don't want to work at a store your whole life. What do you really want to do with your life? He's like, well, I want to be like a molecular biologist and I want to study, and he brings out all this like technical jargon that completely goes over Jackie Mason's head. He's like, oh, that doesn't work out. You can always work at a hardware store.
That's true. Oh,
I guess so, but
yeah. It's more of an observation than a joke, Jackie.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Like I said,
you're the working comedian, and you couldn't come up with a better line for that.
Like I said earlier, they're Reader's Digest jokes. Like they're the type of jokes that you read and you don't laugh at, but you kind of go like, "Ha!"
Yeah.
You know, it's all like, "Oh, yeah."
Like, huh.
I guess that is an observation, isn't it? Isn't life funny?
Funnier than this fucking thing.
Life's funny like that.
Yeah. And then they go to the part where they're singing 9 to 5 at the car wash, and you know
It's a whole big musical number.
it's a pretty elaborate musical number.
It's maybe the most elaborate thing in the TV spot.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
They really spared no expense on that. Like they're filming on location at a car wash. They're dancing on the cars. There's a bunch of extras in the background.
But the setup is funny too, because it's Crispen talking to the camera, and he's all like, "Me and the gang worked at like Kevin's father's car wash. I remember it like it was yesterday." And he's saying that as the gang are pulling up in the car, so it's like I remember it as if it was yesterday, but also it's right now, and we're doing it right now.
We're gonna reenact that day at the car wash.
My future is also currently my present.
Yeah.
And it's also my past.
Now, did you notice in that car wash sequence the portion where Nicolas Cage opens the trunk and there's just like a kid in the trunk?
Was it not the nerd? I
guess it was the nerd, but
I don't know. It's just shenanigans, Jameson. It's just goofballs
It's just
McGillicuddy.
what teenagers do.
Yeah.
But like,
I've done that. I definitely did that as a teenager. Where like
hid in a trunk?
Well, not
get kidnapped?
Not hid in a trunk, but like me and my buddies were all piling into the one car of the guy who had his license, and there weren't any seats left.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I volunteered to climb into the back of the trunk. And one time I was in the trunk, and the car got into an accident.
Oh fuck!
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh boy!
I mean, it wasn't serious or anything. It's like a fender bender, but it was definitely a situation where it was like crunch.
Yeah.
And I'm like trapped in there, and I'm all like, that's not a good noise.
Yeah, hide under like a blanket or something. Cops come by. And,
Yeah.
Could have gotten whatever.
Youthful shenanigans.
Exactly. Oh, to be young again.
So I guess Kevin and Julie kind of become a thing by the end of this. And there's like we see like we've had multiple scenes of Kevin striking out with women on the payphone, and there's someone coming up, and we'll get to that. But it just cuts to it, and now all of a sudden, him and Julie apparently are dating, or Julie has agreed to go with the dance with him, but she's doing one of those magazine quizzes.
Yeah, like the Cosmo compatibility quiz or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And of course, the joke of the thing is that it turns out they're not compatible, but it's so brutal because she says, you only have like 4 things in common. This jerk is a real nerd.
And it's like, weren't you friends going into this?
You guys liked each other.
Yeah, well, like, it's just meant to show that of the archetypes, Julie is a little more stuck up.
Sure, she's
prissy type.
the vapid, blonde, whatever. I'm sure, yeah. Look,
But yeah, that's pretty brutal.
pretty brutal. We can just like lump all of like the Kevin scenes together where he's talking on the phone. There's one time where he phones a girl and he goes down the line of all of her sisters, and then like when he gets like the third sister, I'm all like, last one's gonna be a kid.
Yeah.
And like sure enough, that's like you can tell the punchline of these jokes before they happen. And
You want to go to the dance with me? Wow, you do? Wow, how would you describe yourself? A 10? Oh, you are 10. Well, I'll see you in 7 years.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
we've just verbatim done the entire bit.
yes. But it's like, okay, well, in 7 years, you're going to be in your 20s, and she's going to be 17 years old, buddy.
And then there's a bit that frankly really confused me, and like, you know, this came out like 3 years before I was born, and so like I don't have like a ton of memory about like how payphones work. So like he's talking to a girl, he strikes out, he hangs up the phone. Then the operator calls him back, and he picks up the receiver. And I guess he went over his allotted speaking time, so the operator wants another quarter?
Yeah.
Is that a thing that happened?
I think so, because I do remember, well, I've seen in other movies and stuff where like an operator calls you and you need to deposit a quarter.
Well, but
it's like,
I remember that happening, but usually the operator like interrupts your conversation to say, if you want this conversation to keep going, you need to put more quarters in. But he was done with his phone call, and now the operator wants more money from him. I'm just like, how did they police that?
Yeah, I would have been like, fuck off.
Yeah, I'd be all like, what if no?
Yeah.
What if I just don't?
Yeah.
And of course, like, the joke is he then asks the operator out, and the operator says nothing, so it's like, I guess I get to keep my quarter. But I was just more confused by all, like, is that a thing?
Yeah.
How did that work?
I would have kept my quarter anyways.
That's weird. I feel like everyone would keep their. Why would you give them more money? If you don't have to.
That's just like a living tax at that point.
Like, they don't know who you are.
No.
It's a payphone. They don't have your information.
That's infuriating to think about.
The 80s were weird. I don't know what's going on here with that. That was very strange.
Yeah, people just had like more money to throw around for like superfluous things like that back then, I'd have to say.
Exactly. Well, a quarter cost a lot less back then.
Yeah.
It was like cost a dime. A quarter cost a dime back in 81.
Yeah. All right, so are we at the part where Crispen Glover's talking about how he really needs to get the new tape from
the Talking Heads?
The Talking Heads tape, I just heard it on the radio. I gotta have it. It's fantastic. It's far out. It's intense. It's real.
Jackie Mason has like this general store that I guess is also like the music store of like whatever like small town he has.
He has like an assorted stack of tapes, cassette tapes that he sells at the counter.
And Crispen comes in and he's
I really need the latest Talking Heads. Do you have it? It's the greatest song I've ever heard in my life. I must have it.
Look, it's Houses in Motion, which is a fantastic Talking Heads song. Look, I love Talking Heads, but like it's Crispen. When Crispen Glover is excited about something, it's immediately the most obnoxious thing in the world.
Yeah.
But we do get some early Crispen Glover dance moves.
Holy fuck,
moves. Which he would put to fantastic use, of course, a few years later in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. So it's like, again, like Nicolas Cage started off, he was immediately Nicolas Cage. Crispen Glover's dance moves were like
immediately
on point from the beginning.
Immediately awkward. And it's so funny. So Crispen as the character, I think he's meant to be like...
he's meant to be the everyman.
The everyman, the host. I have to imagine that like the other characters who are more archetypical, they're the ones that have the bulk of the screen time, and Crispen Glover's just meant to be the host. He's not meant to have like any kind of defining characteristics. I thought it was weird that he gets like a central thing of him going to the store wanting to buy something. Whatever. But once, like, I have to imagine once the camera people saw him dancing, they were like, pull back.
Yeah.
We need to capture this. We need to capture the awkwardness of this fucking weirdo kid.
Like, he was just dancing on his own time, and they're all like, well, that's clearly a scene. It's just you doing that.
And, he plays it for, you have to listen to this, Mr. Mason. And he plays...
And he's doing the thing, it was all like, listen to this part. No, that's not that part. Oh, no, here it is. Listen, And Mason...
And listen to it's elephants. Isn't that amazing? And it's like, first of all... It sounds like fucking garbage coming through the VHS rip of whatever the fuck.
Yes, it's a terrible... I mean, no good copy of this exists anywhere on there. This is the only version of this that exists.
Yeah, so...
Is this rip that... Because it aired one time.
Yeah.
It aired one time, and someone just happened to record it. So that's how we know it's a thing that exists.
When they were selling the TV station, they just grabbed what they could.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in my headcanon, this is what it actually sounded like for Jackie Mason.
Pretty much, yeah. Then, of course, we have a rap about chores.
Oh, my God.
We got to mow the grass. We don't think that we can last. After that, we're bagging groceries all day long.
Tomorrow, wash the car and the paint on the floor. If you think it can't get worse, then you are wrong.
We pick up our clothes and get out the garden hose, and there's still a list of things for us to do.
Take our beans to the store. Wait a second, there is more. On our way home, stop and shop for dinner, too.
Have to help Mom around the house, then I have to sew a blouse, and she wants the ironing all done today.
Tomorrow's babysitting for the neighbor's little monsters. Then Mom and Dad are going to see away.
Yeah, that early 2000s all-white ensemble rap. Where at one point Nicolas Cage is doing the laundry and he pulls out like a piece of lingerie and he gives sort of a knowing, suggestive nod to the camera.
But like,
I'm like, if you're doing your laundry, isn't that like your mom's or your sisters?
Something like that.
Like,
you and bras and there's another moment where like Kevin's like checking out like the hot girl next door and he falls through the bushes and like a perfectly cut section of the bush falls through.
There's a breakaway bush.
Yeah, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, and that sort of leads them towards still part of the song, but it becomes like a weird ragtime jingle.
Yeah,
and they're going to a go-kart track or they're racing around, and then a
cop pulls Nicolas Cage over in the go-kart. Yeah, wackiness.
Oh, madness. Yeah, that's all I can really describe it as.
Okay, I think we've gotten to the point now where we can talk about literally the most insane thing that happens in this entire spot.
Let me just see what else I got ahead of this.
Okay, what else do you got?
Well, there's the part where the girls are talking about the time at the swimming pool.
This is the thing.
Okay.
This is what I want to talk about.
Okay.
This is the thing. The first time I watched it, I was like, wait, what? And I clearly had forgotten about it because I rewatched it earlier today before I came here, and it surprised me again.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most insane fucking thing in this entire fucking special.
Yeah.
Because the setup is two of the, I don't know which girls.
The blonde and the brunette.
I don't know which girl is which, but
Blonde and the brunette go to their fat friend.
yes, so two of the girls are talking to the third girl who was like home from school that day. She didn't come to school and she missed gym class. And she says the story is that they're talking about like swim class. They're talking about swimming class, and the girls have their swimming lessons, and the boys have their swimming lessons, and never the twain shall meet. They're scheduled on different days, but there was like a scheduling conflict, and the boys thought that they had the pool when the girls had the pool. So far, all of this is normal.
Perfectly
all
innocent.
of this is completely above board. Nothing is weird about this whatsoever.
Until...
And then one of the girls says, of course, the main difference between the boys and the girls is that the girls wear swimsuits and the boys do not. And it was at that point I looked at my television and I said, excuse me, what?
Well, you know how we split our class. Girls in the morning and boys in the afternoon. And of course you know why. The boys don't wear swimsuits. We do, of course, but they don't.
Are the boys skinny dipping in the pool? Is that a thing?
During school?
Yeah.
Like
During-
within an educational system?
Where there's likely a teacher present?
I'm sorry, what? What the fuck are you talking about? And then the joke becomes the girls got to see the boys completely naked because the boys
rushed into the pool
seemingly walked into the gymnasium or whatever
all naked.
As they normally do. And the girls got an eyeful of their naked bodies, and they said, now we know what a naked boy looks like. It's different.
not like in the textbooks.
It's different from the textbooks.
Yeah.
And the girl looks at the camera and says, oh, I should have been there. And I'm still looking at my television going, I'm
What?
sorry, what?
What?
You are describing child abuse.
Alert-
These are children. Alert the authorities.
Call the police.
What are you talking about? Is this a thing that was normal in 1981?
I certainly hope not.
I've heard of shirts and skins, but my God, what are you talking about? The boys always swim naked. I imagine like a different scenario where the two girls are like talking about this at home, and her parents just overhear it. I'm all like, hold on,
Wait,
hold
wait, wait,
on,
wait,
hold
wait,
on,
wait,
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 wait, wait, wait, wait, hold on, wait,
The boys were naked?
All right,
And they're always naked during swim class?
I'm just gonna have to make
Who's their teacher?
Just gonna have to make several phone calls here.
Yeah.
This is a crime. It was the most insane fucking. I still can't believe it.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that was a part of that.
Well,
that's
this
so weird.
just relating to the youth of the day, I guess, unfortunately.
I guess. And we're blowing the lid off like this massive pedophile scandal that's going under our noses.
Get the people who did that Nickelodeon documentary involved into the making of The Best of Times.
Jesus Christ.
Holy shit.
That was wild. That was the wildest fucking thing. My God.
Yeah.
Whew.
Like the writing process to that must have been like, what sort of a funny thing that happened to us when we were teenagers? Oh, when I was a kid, there was a scheduling mishap and all the girls in the swim class saw all the boys naked. And like, wait, what? Say that again?
Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
Buddy, I think you were the victim of sexual assault.
Yes, exactly. It's like, and then like,
no, in the boys' class, you went naked in the swim class. What? No, that happened to you. Happened to everybody. No, don't lie. That happened to
all the
you.
boys got together and they swam laps in the nude, and then the teacher would take photographs, and he'd work one-on-one with the boys. Come on, everyone went through this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay. So
what do we? Then what happened? And then that's immediately followed by a monologue from Lisa where she has the hots for one of her teachers. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, we're going into some murky territory here. And I'm just like, can we steer away from this, please?
Yeah.
My God, can we get off this?
And sure, like part of teenagers thing is that like you might have a crush on a teacher or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the picture of the teacher? looked like fucking Eugene Levy in Best in Show. He looked
Hey.
like the biggest dork in the
He's a
world.
handsome man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, those horn rim glasses.
And then Jill talks to the camera about how the adult world is always exploiting teens because they took denim from them.
Yeah.
That used to be their thing, and now denim's too expensive, which of course leads into another musical number where...
there's all the girls sing Heartbreaker to Crispen Glover.
Yeah.
So once again, we're in like a situation in a movie where all the women have the hots for Crispen Glover.
And when we say they sing the song Heartbreaker, we mean they sing the entire song. It's a long number.
with like a chorus line
Yeah.
and choreography and everything.
And lots of preteen girls showing their butts off in those jeans. Yeah.
Yeah. well,
This one was a problem.
It was.
This was a problematic
yeah. Jeez.
hour and a half of television.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
what
boy.
like this was the big red flag that kept them from putting this to series.
It was Al Pacino at the end of Jack and Jill. It's like no one must see this.
But then that is immediately followed by the scene where Crispen Glover describes a dream that he had of Jill, where she was his steady girlfriend. And hey, wouldn't it be great if we went out? What if we were dating? And Jill very pointedly turns him down.
Very nicely. Yeah.
Because she values their friendship. And she doesn't want to risk their friendship by dating, which I think is a good lesson.
It's a good thing. And
it's a good lesson for young men to learn. I think that's something that like perhaps I should have learned earlier in my
Oh yeah,
in my life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's more of like this old chestnut of reinforcing those toxic ideas. It was all like, no, if you're friends with a girl, like you have to try and get into a romantic relationship. And it's frustrating because the button of the joke is Jill says to Crispen, I respect you as a person, and then he kind of like looks at the camera and is like, well, that's nice, I guess. Wow. It's like, no, it is. It is nice, you psycho. And then, of course, they end up at the dance together anyway, so it's like everyone gets partnered up with a girl at the end because that's
how you do.
That's the only way your life has value, is if you get the pretty girl to dance with you.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well done.
Yeah, but fellas, if she doesn't want to date you, you don't want to risk that fucking friendship either, because then you're not even going to have that person in your life.
Yeah.
And then, like, she shakes his hand, which is nice.
Nice.
But also kind of telegraphs that, oh boy, can you believe this?
Oh, man.
And then the laugh track kicks in. Oh yeah, we forgot to mention there's a laugh track.
A very sporadic laugh track.
To let you know when to laugh.
Now, do you think that this actually... Well, obviously, it wasn't filmed in front of a live audience because they keep changing locations, and a lot of locations are outside. So this must be like a canned audience thing. But yeah, it's the classic laugh track thing where it comes in at weird moments, and they're laughing at stuff that's not very funny. Yeah. But it helped because I
wouldn't know when to laugh.
I was slapping my knee.
Yeah.
Tell you that much.
We find out back at the convenience store that...
Back at the convenience store.
Well, I mean, there's only, 3 locations.
I know.
There's the beach, there's the arcade, and there's the convenience store.
Like, when I heard special guest star Jackie Mason, I'm like, oh, they got him for a scene. No, he's like a main character.
Yeah.
He's one of the gang.
Yeah, really.
He's more of one of the gang
Pops.
than any black person.
Hey, at least he's minority representation.
That's true.
So... one of the kids with glasses goes up to him and he says, well, hey, I signed you up to supply snacks for the school dance. And, he approaches him with the news. Hey, good news, Jackie Mason. Oh, you're quitting. No, even better than that. You've been drafted. Even better. Oh, nothing could be better than you being drafted.
Yeah,
and I'm like, Jesus.
It likes to go back to that drafting thing, like, a couple of times. Yeah, I get that clearly was like a bigger concern for teenagers in 1981 than I realized at the time.
And I can't wait to get into the scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, he sets up that Jackie Mason, I signed you up to supply snacks for the dance. You won't get any money for doing this. I just signed you up out of the goodness of your heart. And of course, Jackie Mason takes umbrage to that, but whatever. It's too late to stop now.
We're in the tail end of the TV special here, and just now we're starting to get some semblance of a plot in the sense that
there is a dance.
This dance is happening. Kevin's been trying to get a date to the dance. The girl wants to join the band, so the band, and then there's a scene where she gets them a gig for the dance. Jackie Mason's supplying the food for the dance. It's all leading there, but none of it really has any connective tissue. It's just that's the end goal that we're getting to. Yeah. But not before Nicolas Cage's big dramatic moment. And this is how we knew he was a star. This is how we knew he was a future Oscar winner.
Hang on.
Oh, did I miss something important?
Yeah, well, you were saying that Janet gets them the gig at the dance. So, she's howling around with the garage band which consists of 2 fucking keyboardists, a bassist, and a drummer.
Look, you need 2 keyboards.
I guess so. It was the 80s. And like someone calls them if they want to be in the band, and she negotiates their asking price of like $20 for the gig to $120 with the caveat that she gets to join the band. Arc complete.
Arc complete for this character.
She
yes.
worked her way up from roadie, and now she's in the Black Kids Band.
There you go.
That's
what the band's called, the Black Kids Band.
Yeah.
There's only one of them. Yeah, it's the Black Kids Band, not the Blacks Kids Band. That's terrible. I apologize to everyone listening.
Yeah. And then she sees that, look, she becomes the lead guitarist, which I'm going to say is a very important piece of a band.
It's probably good.
And she takes to it like a duck to water. She is working that stage at the dance. One wonders how this fucking band functioned without a guitarist. Anyways.
This does sound good with a lead guitar. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, man, that's the sound we were missing.
That's the hook we were missing this entire time. No wonder we were only getting offered $20 as a group. Okay, now it is time to talk about Nick Cage's monologue.
So this is Nicolas Cage, and he's looking directly at the camera, and this is a pretty long monologue about how he's scared about his future.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I forgot the word, like he's not drafted yet, but he's like...
He's enlisted.
He's enlisted, thank you. Yeah.
The important thing to remember about this character is that it was Nicolas Cage freak out mode the entire time. He's the most exaggerated of all the kids. He's, the Lothario, like, takes nothing seriously.
And this is his moment where, like, I have feelings
There's
too.
actual fucking depth to this guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's enlisted in the military. He talks about how his dad served in the Korean War and how it's every young man's patriotic duty to fight for the country, and how his dad always talks about how important it is for America to have a very strong military. But when he asks his dad about his history in combat, his dad just won't talk about it. He obviously has some PTSD, and Nicolas Cage is worried about that. But
my mom starts crying.
My mom starts crying, and then he says, "But like next year, it might not even happen, and I might have college next year if I get good grades. I've never had good grades." And in that moment, I was almost moved to tears. Literally, I kid you not. That's
why he's the best, baby.
Like, to see a character break down like this and having like a genuine fear about his uncertain future, and it ends with him, like a long shot of him just like walking solemnly on the beach. I was like, Jesus fucking, this came out of fucking nowhere.
I kept waiting for a subtitle to pop up as like, Nick was killed overseas.
I mean, to all you aspiring actors out there, if you ever need a monologue to do for a class,
pretty good.
Check this one
not
out.
A bad one.
There's a lot of meat to this bone.
I guarantee you, no one has seen it.
No. Oh, what is that from? Oh, it's from a short film called The Best of Times.
Exactly. Yeah. You could just claim it as an original piece, and no one would call you on it.
Yeah. Oh, but I thought that was great. It was good. It was really good.
Because we love him, and he's the best.
Yeah. Future Oscar winner.
And then he throws in like a line about like, but when you start talking about going over to war, the chicks get really cuddly, man.
Oh man, that's all a facade. It turns out. In the body of this young man, he's still a little boy.
Mm-hmm. And we see him at the dance, and he's using.
He's fine.
and he's using that line. It's all like, I'm heading off to El Salvador tomorrow.
Yeah, so
he's
like, gonna live.
Nick.
He's living that night like it's his last.
Yeah.
Which is.
I don't think he actually got drafted. I think he's just saying that.
We'll never know.
We'll never know because episode 2 never happened.
Yeah. So we swing back to Crispen Glover in the front of the.
Wouldn't that be a weird way for the series to progress? Like Nick actually gets drafted, and then every once in a while we cut over to El Salvador. It's like what's Nick up to right now?
It's the ongoing story arc where like all the girls talking like, oh, my dream wedding's gonna be at a castle. My dream wedding's gonna be at a cake shop. And so I want my dream.
The best of times cut to it's like a firefight.
He's the only one that has like ongoing conflict.
That's the drama.
The show has everything. They needed to give this another shot, I think.
I was wrong. There's a lot of material here to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's our longest episode ever. But we're finally at the dance.
Yeah, we get one more shot of Crispen Glover dancing awkwardly outside the building, where he's talking about how his parents met and like how his dad kind of danced goofy, and it's just Crispen Glover dancing goofy.
Okay, so it has to be said, we have a young Crispen Glover at a high school dance talking about his parents at a high school dance. Is this reminding you of anything in particular?
Back to the Future.
And when Julie, right, the band girl?
Yeah, Janet.
Janet is the band girl. Janet comes on and it's all like, hey, let's hear it for Janet. What song does she start playing?
Oh, it's not Johnny Be Good, is it?
It really sounds... It's hard to tell because the audio is terrible on this, but I swear to God, it is a lyricless cover of Johnny Be Good. So, Crispen Glover is dancing at a high school dance to Johnny Be Good 3 years before Back to the Future happens.
Wow.
So that's a weird
He
coincidence.
can't really get away from it.
He can't, well...
It's like Kevin Bacon in Footloose.
Well, to be fair, Kevin Bacon keeps reminding everyone that Footloose is a thing.
And he keeps reminding, don't play it at a wedding I'm at.
Sure? Is that a thing?
That's a thing he said.
Ah, okay,
yeah.
fair enough, yeah.
And then the black kid says like, hey,
Yeah,
Chuck, it's your
I know.
cousin. You're looking for that sound? Well, check this out. Yeah. And anyway...
And then things are basically over.
Well, Jackie Mason's chaperoning the dance, I guess, and berating all the kids for
Well, he
eating.
brought the food.
He brought the food.
brought the
he doesn't have
food.
to stick around for it. I mean,
Well, he's chastising all the kids for eating too much.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, slow down, or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck he says.
Yeah,
He
I-
awkwardly does the robot at one point in time.
he does. He tries to cut in on Crispen Glover and the brunette girl dancing,
And then he's all like, you know what?
I'm too old for this.
Forget about this. And then they left that in the movie.
I would have just watched a whole movie of
Sure.
Jackie Mason like interacting with these kids, berating them and being awkward around them.
Yeah, and then I guess
Janet.
God, I can't remember their fucking names. Jill? Yeah, Jill also had a dream about Crispen, and now I guess she is into him in a romantic sense. I don't know.
I thought that was the girl that Kevin tried hitting on at the beach with Nick Cage's advice. Nick Cage managed to swoop her up, which makes
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I barely remember these characters, even though they literally like
Gave us their
actual
names.
their actual first names, and they keep
They're not worth
and they
remembering.
keep repeating them over and over again. Yeah, I
Yeah.
barely remember most of these characters, but all of the male characters have been partnered up with a lady,
Mm-hmm.
except for Janet, who's partnered up with a sweet guitar, and she's
rocking the hell out of it.
she's the queen of the dance or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then we cut back to Crispen Glover's room,
Mm.
and he says, "I hope you learned something about teenagers." And to quote The Simpsons, "Crispen, my friend, I haven't learned a thing."
Remember, you used to be a teenager, so to go easy on us. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought this was a show about teenagers rapping to teenagers about like the issues they face, presented in a kids show format. And the big takeaway is for the adults. So this thing is for everything for all generations, I suppose.
Exactly. It's,
Yeah.
it reaches a far-reaching, wide audience. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just realizing right now, this thing really kind of improved a little bit on a second rewatch. Maybe I was just kind of so befuddled the first time I watched it. I remember texting you. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing we've ever covered. The second time through, I was accumulated to it. So I'm sitting there and like something crazy would happen. I'll be all like, well, yes, of course. It's the best of times. This is how the best of times goes.
This is as good as it's gonna get. Yeah, because like it is very jarring the first time you watch like these 10-second vignettes. It's like playing fucking WarioWare, right? But then
Great metaphor.
But
It
then-
is the WarioWare of failed TV movies.
But
yes.
now that we got to experience that initial shock and actually get to sit down and appreciate scene by scene what happens, yeah, it goes down a little better.
It doesn't go down smooth.
No.
But you're used to it the second time around.
All right.
It's like when you're on like a juice cleanse and the first time you drink and you're like, oh, and you almost will throw up, and then the next day you're all like, it's easier. It's going down easier, I'll tell you that much.
Is there anything that we didn't bring up that you want to talk about?
I think we covered everything. I mean, like, what are we gonna do? Just like repeat some of the jokes that aren't very good?
No.
Again?
I mean,
what do you have anything?
Yeah,
Did we miss anything?
Yeah, at the dance, Nicolas Cage does the splits, so that's something he could do.
He was very limber. Yeah,
He was very limber.
He's cut in this. Yeah,
Yeah.
He's in his peak physical form here.
Yeah, but I've never seen him do the splits before, and I'm impressed whenever I see people do the
You
splits.
probably won't. I imagine.
I don't know if he can do it.
I imagine he can't do it anymore. But you know what? He's surprised me before. So
Yeah, once he gets to a streaming show, maybe he'll pull that out of his pocket. At one point, one of the kids says to Jackie Mason when he's imploring him to do something, he says, "Well, remember what they say in the Bible." Jackie Mason is very Jewish.
yes.
he would not be familiar with the Christian Bible.
He's read a Bible.
Yes.
He hasn't read the Bible.
Not the one that this kid's talking.
Exactly.
This very white kid is talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. So that was my first inkling of like, oh man, is this like a weird religious backdoor show?
They just wanted to throw a joke in here.
Okay. Well,
They're quoting a Bible passage about,
because it was the Reagan era. All right. Well, that was the best.
Now I'm
of
just
time.
picturing Ronald Reagan like doing like an announcement before it's all like, we've got a really great show. It's
a
all
real
about,
Cracker Jack show.
It's all
for
about
you.
the youth of today, and we're just gonna watch it over here. And well, I really enjoy it. Yeah. So the best of times. Is it a whole lot of nothing, or does it have a certain something? I'll jump ahead and say, if we had done this episode and I'd only seen it once, I would have said a whole lot of nothing. Now I think I've convinced myself that there's a little something to this.
something to
I think
it?
I convinced myself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really recommend people to watch it.
I'd say watch it in a group.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yes, I can absolutely see why this wasn't rushed to series, because this seemed like something that there was like a dime a dozen
We
for.
don't need more of this.
No.
It's not like Blackjack where you're all like, I could see there's the bare bones of like a television series here. I don't know how they sustained this.
No, but certainly seeing the swerves that it takes to the dramatic bents that young, vintage Nicolas Cage being the Nicolas Cage that we're all familiar with, and
mean,
saying
that
like,
was
oh, he was always like this, and yes, that was fantastic. And I'm just gonna say again, that fucking monologue he did, it's jeez, it put a lump in my throat, man. Like it kind of struck me to a degree. It was like the only time I've seen a lot of Nicolas Cage movies, and I haven't seen Pig, but this is the only one that left me thinking like, whew, that's pretty heavy coming from a guy who I just love as the insane Nicolas Cage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there we
Yeah.
go. Check it out.
Yeah,
The best of times. Even
It's
though
free on YouTube.
It's free on YouTube. It's short, and we kind of covered all of it. But yeah,
Put it on a party.
put it on in the background.
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of those things that people are like, is that Nicolas Cage?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's so young.
Look how weird Crispen Glover is.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That was The Best of Times, directed by Don Mishler, someone who will be more impressive than anything I will ever do in my entire life.
Yeah,
Holy crap.
The best was yet to come for this
Truly.
budding director.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there we go. And we are continuing on. We have one more episode of failed TV pilots turned TV movies.
Oh, I can't wait for this one.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be next episode. But thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out all of our other episodes. Yeah, we'd like to thank Eddie Lamb for his fantastic theme music. You can follow us on all the social media. You can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
I'm Jameson Raptor. You can see all my cartoons on Uptown Slim Jim. That's my animation account. And as Nicolas Cage always says, Nicolas fucking woo Cage.
And hi fucking yaw.
Hi yourself, Kaz.